So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Thursday, March the 31st, 2022. Man, this month went by fast. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581 and press 1, and that puts you in the queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. While we're waiting on Michael to get dialed in, I'll just remind everybody you can go to our website, whyagain.org, and you can click on either the easiest place to find the information for tonight is to go up and either click on schedule and then Global Online Book Club, or if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see the listing of events, and you'll see the Global Book Club as one of them. And when you click that, it will give you the information for the club. Michael has been on there twice now. The club is studying forgiveness. They're using the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And last Thursday, Michael went over the forgiveness worksheet. And that link is on the page that I just sent you to as well, so you can go back and listen to him going through step-by-step of the worksheet that's in the book. And the lady actually had made slides of each step one at a time, and she would put them up on the screen so those that perhaps didn't have a book right with them could follow along easily. And the next lesson tonight the next class tonight is more questions and answers. It's at 8:30 London time. That's where the book club originated. So that's 3:30 Eastern time. And the club is called Hear My Voice. And she runs it. She's run it for about 4 years. And I think they actually meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays and at different times. But Michael is going to be on there until, who knows, until we're complete. After tonight, he's going to be there the second and the fourth Thursday of every month. And all of that information is on our website, so you can go out there and get the Zoom link and everything else. And I'm going to hold just one moment. I've got a little girl hollering for me. Just a second. My apologies. She always takes a nap when we're doing the radio show. And before she closed her eyes, she saw a bug on the ceiling. And so I'm going to go in here and get that bug for her. So we would like to hear from you all. If you would press 1, that puts you in queue. And excuse me. Okay, lay down, sweetie. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us, and I'll announce you by your area code. And if you don't want to give us your real name, you can make up a name, and that's okay. And so I'm still waiting on Michael to get on, and I hope that you all have had a good week. Like I said, this month has just absolutely flown by. It's been so busy for us getting Dad settled and everything, and it just seems like one day just kind of rolls right into the next one. So I don't know where the time has gone. The 4th of the year is already passed. So 563-999-3581 and press 1. There are a few other new things on the website if you haven't been out there in a little while. And also, I'll remind everybody of the app. It changed tremendously back in December. We did a update added. It has 2 different forgiveness wake-up sheets that has the Drag On Cling On game. It has the commitments. You can click a button that will take you to our website for events. And then there's a button that says more, and there's a whole lot of links under that link. And then you can send us a question from any page. So it doesn't matter what page you're on, button on there that says Instant Ask Questions. And so when you ask us a question, it will send me an email, and you're required to put your email address in. And so it will send me an email with your question and your email address. We will read the question on the radio show. Michael will answer it, and then we'll send you back an email with the day and the time that we actually addressed your question. And then after you ask the question, you go straight back to the app and just continue where you were. So if you haven't downloaded that, under Google Play Store or the Apple iTunes iStore, I'm not familiar with the Apple phones, but go to your Apple Store, and it's a free download. It's Heartland, all one word, Aramaic, forgiveness, and it'll pop up with kind of a glowing heart, and then once you download it, you'll see mine and Michael's picture in there too. But it's a free app, and it's totally private, so download it, and if you have an old copy that doesn't have all of those things that I just mentioned, then do an update and get the latest version of it. And like I said, then on the website there are different changes, so, scroll around there and, let us know what you think. If there's something that you would like to see in a different location or easier access or whatever, just drop me a line to Jeanie, JEANIE, at whyagain, WHYAGAIN.org. And welcome, Michael.
And thank you, dear heart. Thank you for all the awesome skills that you have to put all of these things together with technology and everything else that goes along with getting these tools available and putting it out into people's hands. So it's pretty awesome. So you are deeply dedicated. And beyond that, why is this happening to me again? Where do we want to go with this? Basically, it's let's look at how do we change the content of the human mind, and why would I want to change the content of my human mind? And I'd offer that the reason you'd want to do that because, well, probably the biggest thing is, and it's something that we've pretty much had hidden from us, is that recognizing that by nature we are creators, then realizing that literally everything that happens in our lives we create, we structure the realities, and we find ourselves through resonance attracted to the circumstances that we find ourselves in. As you change the content of your mind, as you remove content that doesn't belong there, that has you end up in places that one says, oh, I'd rather not be there, you get to change the whole resonance of your field. You get to live in a different world. And, when you recognize that there are two worlds, there's what people call the world of actuality, the world that people think is that of stuff, which it really isn't. There's no stuff. This is Einstein, he says, on such things as matter, we've been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibration has been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. We don't live in the material world. We live in an energetic world. And recognizing that in an energetic world, because energy is governed by the law of resonance, we tend to resonate ourselves into spaces that reflect who and what we are. And forgiveness allows for the removal of energies, or the transmutation, maybe more properly said, of energies that never belonged in the human system. And as we choose to face and deal with what does not belong, we literally move those energies out of the system. Bring us back into situations and circumstances we say, I really don't want to be here. Forgiveness being the tool for doing that. How do you collapse that world of perception? How do you change the content of the mind? Well, that's the whole idea of this awesome first century technology called forgiveness. Once again, nothing to do with letting somebody else off the hook, but rather a tool with which I get to play out what's in my mind. I'm going to choose to change that. Well, then everything changes. And we're here to change everything. Process, to bring forward these ideas and to make these ideas available on a wider and wider scale, eventually until they're available to literally every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth. And when I realized that the content of my mind reflects in my physiology, if there are things reflecting in my physiology that I say, well, I really don't want that happening, then I have the opportunity to start to move those things out of my structure, change the content of my mind, change literally the resonance of my whole energy field, and therefore wherever I find myself, things are going to start to shift and change. Behavior always comes out of and is a reflection of the content of one's mind. And if one blames someone else for their behavior, then they're going to tend to hide the root of what drives them from themselves and wonder, why is this happening to me again? Wonder how they find themselves in the same position over and over and over again. After all, it's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. It must be the fault of someone else. We're going to ask you to give that idea up totally and completely and recognize that wherever you are, you're there by law. You're there because of the way this energy system operates. And when you take responsibility, you have access to parts of your mind that otherwise appear to be hidden, and you get to be able to change them. So that's the essence that we're here to do, the work that we're here to understand. And if we're going to survive, we need to rise above the dynamics of hostility and fear. With awareness and understanding the tools to do so, healing is inevitable. And aberrant behavior moves through humanity because of the energetic dynamics that any individual or group of individuals is engaging in. And once you realize that literally the world between your ears is generated from your own internal content, and you know how to collapse that content, you know how to literally collapse that world, which is what forgiveness does, then you have the opportunity to start to do a total restructuring project. So that's what we are here to do. And of course, Jeannie has put together the app, which is just awesome the way that it has developed. And if you haven't used the forgiveness process as yet, one of the easiest ways to do it is just go to your app store and type in Heartland, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. Type that in, click install, and you'll be working with the world's only true forgiveness app. And if you start to work with it and you have questions, here's the place to call. Come join us. If you're out there in this listener land, our purpose in doing this call is to be here to support you. So if you have a thought about any aspect of the work that you're not sure about and you'd like some feedback, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, you can call into the show, and by calling, you're listening to the show directly. The call-in number is 563-999-3581. And as you're listening to the show, if you have a question, all you do is push 1, and that will raise a hand in the control panel, and G will introduce you by your area code. We've been talking about the codependence dynamic, codependence to interdependence, and the power person dynamic. And there are 3 conditions that happen in someone's life that instill this power person dynamic within the mind. It's usually between a parent and a child, though not always. And the three conditions that install that into a mind are: one, the individual is in the control of someone else. The subject individual, again, is usually a child, and the someone else is usually a parent. And that individual has more control over the subject individual than the, again, usually child has themselves. Secondly, the power person is not functioning as a human being, is not functioning as love, as we're designed to. And the third thing is that the subject individual perceives the unfolding events as a survival situation. When these three conditions are met, the energy field of the child opens wide, and the child simply takes in whatever's happening in the environment. Energetically becomes like a sponge. They open fully and just draw in every energetic dynamic of the environment. And those highly charged emotional energies, which are absorbed in that moment, become the root of behavior in the future, and will tend to control an individual their whole lives long. Once that power person dynamic is installed, there'll be three behaviors possible for that individual, literally for the rest of their lives, until they become cognizant of and process through, forgive, remove what doesn't belong. It'll run their whole lives. And which behavior is active in that subject individual at any given moment will always be determined through what's called the automatic decision system. And the behavior that's active in the system will be determined by the level of stress in the mind. So the rest of that individual life is going to be controlled by those power person dynamics, and they're basically, depending on the level of stress, three different possibilities, three different types of behavior that will kick in. When there's little or no particular stress, will, with no conscious thought, be driven to do whatever they did to get along with the power person. When stress starts to build in that individual's life, they'll be driven to do whatever they did to resist and survive with the power person. And then when they become ultra stressed, they'll do whatever the power person did that they hated the most. And few have the ability to refuse to follow the behavior prompts from the mind in that circumstance. So again, in that circumstance, when ultra stressed, the individual will do whatever their power person did to them that they hated the most. We talked yesterday. I'm not sure whether I read the piece from Will Smith that he'd written. I think we did talk about that. I mean, if you're thinking, there's so much conversation. I was shocked when I looked on the internet this morning at how much conversation there is about the Oscars from the other night. But Will Smith did some writing some time ago in his memoirs where he described exactly the behavior that he did at the Oscars that night. If you were watching, as Chris Rock told his joke, quote-unquote joke, we might want to reconsider in our culture what joking really is. But when he told that joke, Will Smith was laughing till he caught his wife's eye, and she wasn't. Now, my offering would be that whatever the look was that she gave him, and it was the look, if you were watching, it resonated. It activated a different goal in him than the goal that, I would expect someone who's there to perhaps win an Oscar He's there to have a good time for the evening. And it looked like he was. He was laughing away until that look from his wife. And what it appeared, at least to me, was that she wasn't very happy. It resonated as a goal in Will Smith's mind. And the way that stress is created is by setting goals or resonating, activating a goal that's there from the past. So I think we could easily see the moment where a different goal was resonated than to just be there having a good time. And he gets up and becomes pretty brutal, physically and verbally, with Chris Rock. And he did exactly what his power person did that he hated the most. From his memoir, written, of course, sometime before, I'm not even sure when he wrote this memoir, but he wrote how he watched his father hit his mother in the head and how much of an impact it had on his life. So here he is, 45 or so years later, and he replicates the behavior his power person did that was so painful for him 45 years earlier. He literally replicates it to the T. And interesting that there was some language that went with it. I bet if we could have gone back 45 years earlier when Will Smith was 9, that incident that he wrote about, I'll bet the language that he used toward Chris Rock, I bet that hostility-based language, I'll bet that was verbatim exactly the words that were being used by his father in that event where Will Smith said he was so impacted. And these dynamics tend to move from generation to generation to generation. You know, you look at that story of the Jews wandering in the desert for 40 years, and you ask yourself the question, or at least I would invite everybody to ask yourself the question, can a group of people who obviously are very well acquainted with astronomy get lost in a 35 square mile area for 40 years? That's just silly. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. It wasn't about being lost in a hot, sandy place. The desert there is a code word for the unconscious. Someone whose life is being run by the unconscious, one would say they are lost in the desert. And if you go back and you read that passage in the scriptures, they tell us exactly what needed to happen for him to get out of the desert. What did they say had to occur? They said the old generation had to die off. Now, that doesn't mean everybody in all physical bodies had to physically die. The root of the word generation is genari. It means cause. All of the old causes held in the mind from the previous generations had to be removed from the mind, otherwise it would run the mind. The difference between being in the desert, replicating past power person dynamics, and what they called the promised land, which I would offer is the land of conscious co-creation. What had to happen, the old generation, the old causes held in the mind, right down to the very word patterns, had to be brought forward in the presence of active love and transmuted, released, forgiven. Until that's done, as sure as night follows day, I was talking to someone this morning and talking about this event, and here's what you can do with absolute surety. If you watch someone under a high level of stress and watch what they do, you can predict that they had that done to them in childhood. Just as night follows day. I mean, I was kind of surprised after I, heard about the incident, watched the video of the incident, and then someone had posted from his memoir a description of the incident, and it happened to Will Smith decades before. And that's how things get passed from generation to generation. You look at that idea in the ancient scriptures, and they said, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. Most people are simply playing out the energetic dynamics of the generations. And once that energetic dynamic becomes established in trauma, it will tend to be passed from generation to generation to generation. What we're looking to do is to support people metaphorically stepping into the promised land, the place where they can consciously, purposely engage in an energy, originate an energy that perhaps has never been seen in their bloodline. And as they do, bring a different behavior into their lives. So that's what we're here to support. Support looking at whatever does not belong, and then encourage people to step into the place where they forgive continuously. And I don't mean that they're continuously letting somebody else off the hook. The Greek idea of forgiveness, but rather that they're continuously, whenever there's any form of pain or turmoil or upset, applying the forgiveness process to remove. There needs to be a paradigm shift around forgiveness. A complete change of mind about forgiveness has to occur if one is ever going to engage in actual forgiveness. So forgive continuously, but never forgive anyone for anything. Never forgive yourself for anything. New paradigm. When you access the Aramaic forgiveness process, and if you haven't used it, if you're not using it, we invite you to go to our website, whyagain.org. You can engage in and do the worksheet process right there. If you want a copy of our book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Unfortunately, it's out of print, but you can go to Amazon, you can go to eBay and find used copies of it for usually $3 or $4. So you can get a physical copy of the book, though it's out of print. Thank goodness we put enough copies out there around the turn of the century that they're still around 25 years later. People are still selling used copies. Or you can go to whyagain.org, whyagain.org, and if you scroll down the page, you'll see a picture of the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Click on it and drill down and follow the links, and you'll be able to download a free copy of it. And or you could do the forgiveness worksheet process, a step-by-step. Here's how you fill in the blanks to train your mind to engage in forgiveness. Here's how you do that. And you can do it right there on the website live, or you can print the worksheets off, process yourself at home, and or, as we said earlier, you can download the app in your app store. Just type in Heartland, Heartland, all one word, Heartland, Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness. When you look at that, when you type that in, you'll be looking at, although in some cases it kind of turns the words around, but if you type those words in, it'll come up. Click the link, download the app, and start filling in the blanks. Jeannie has put two different versions of the worksheet in, the simpler one that she uses in her Healing Women's Intensive, and the long form that it gets into a more detailed process. If you have questions about that, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call us. Ask your questions. And or if you would like to participate in the radio show, or pardon me, in the study group that is happening in, let's see, it's now 1:26, so about 2 hours. You can simply join us on that Zoom session, which I assume Jeannie has in the archives at this point, or the notes on the radio show. And or I'm just looking now, give me 1 second, and we'll give you the call-in number for the Zoom call. And the call-in, or pardon me, not call-in number, but the meeting ID. So if you open the Zoom app on your phone, right, on the website, but you can put in the meeting ID. Once you've opened the Zoom app on your phone or your computer, the meeting ID is 974-444-2565. So just put that meeting ID in, and then the passcode's 54321. It was nice they made that simple. So meeting ID in the Zoom app, 974-4442-4565. Passcode 54321. Put that in, and you are part of listening to the Q&A session. That's what we're doing today. We did the worksheet last week. And so if you listen to the Q&A session, you will be able to ask questions through Zoom and or just listen to the conversation with people from all over the world. Last time we had some interesting, last couple of shows where study groups we've done with them have been quite interesting. Interesting group of folks. So thank you, Yinka, the young lady from London, England, who put that together and has made a commitment to just support us in getting the forgiveness process out there on a wider and wider scale all the time. So if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind?
We do have a hand up, and if somebody would drop me a text, it may be my phone because I had to dial back in, but there's like a buzz that's going on behind you as you're talking. So I'll go ahead and turn on the caller. It's 828. I believe this is Miss Magda.
Hello, it is indeed Miss Magda. I do not hear a buzz.
Hey there.
I'm not hearing a buzz, just to let you know what's happening with my phone. I don't have very long.
Okay, good.
I can listen today, but I only have very long to talk. So I just wanted to add a little something that you may have already addressed in regard to the incident at the Oscars between Will Smith and Chris Rock. I believe you were talking about that earlier. And you're talking about the power person dynamic. And I understand that Will Smith was traumatized by something that his father did to his mom. And so it had to do with him playing out his power person in his time of big stress. Chris Rock, however, I heard later, or read or something, that he also had some traumatic situations in his family. And I think it was that his father was the person who struck out. And I don't know if it was him or a different family member. But the neat thing that I also heard about Chris Rock is that he processed through that stuff in therapy. And I think that's a brilliant example why he was able to stay in a non-violent reaction even though he was struck by Will Smith.
Yeah, I thought he was phenomenal, that instead of going into disturbance, upset, emotional trauma, I mean, obviously he's done some work. And he's a professional, entertainer, comedian. But, I thought for the kind of attack that took place and then the verbal assault that took place afterward perhaps was even worse than the physical in terms of, here's the elite of Hollywood and how many, millions of people around the world listening, and the verbal assault was pretty intense, and Chris Rock made a joke of it and went on, just moved forward. I thought he was amazing. Pretty rare to have that kind of composure in that sort of situation. I don't know anything about Chris Rock's history, so it's nice to have some of that information.
Yeah, I wish I had more specifics. At this moment, I'm not recalling what it was that happened in his family, but it seemed when I heard it that it very much paralleled what Will Smith had gone through. I think it was a mother-father interaction, or maybe many interactions. And
right.
so, yeah, I think that shows the value of doing our work and dealing with those demons that come in the form of our power person dynamic. And so I just wanted to give you that info. Great example.
Awesome. Thank you. I wasn't aware of that. So, and you know, if you go back to our healing through relationships, it's just another verification of the way it works, matching bags of garbage. And we tend to pull those energetic patterns out on each other. And, of course, it's everybody's opportunity to learn forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't thought about that, but that is so true. Well, I'm gonna let go of and listen to the rest of the call. Thank you for your show, of course, and your wonderful tools. Bless you both.
Appreciate you. Blessings. And, of course, in just 2 hours today, and then the second and fourth Thursday of every month until further notice, we'll be doing the study session with the Hear My Voice book study out of London, England. So come and join us and be part of the process. And it is now, we've got about 25 minutes left. So, Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody else out there in the phone queue with a hand up? Anything else happening in the chat room?
No, it is all quiet. No hands up. So somebody press 1. We've got plenty of time to go through another conversation.
So if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? 563-999-3581. It's a pretty hot topic on the table with what happened at the Oscars the other night. I find it interesting. Actually, I did quite a bit of research after the show last night, and if you aren't familiar with it, there is an interesting video. If you go into YouTube and type in Sasheen, Sasheen, Little Feather, and Marlon Brando and the word Oscars, you'll find a very interesting video link. There's actually a short one that's only about 2 minutes, and then there's about an 8-minute one. Click on the 8-minute one because it involves 2 different pieces of information. During the Oscars in 1973, Marlon Brando won the Best Actor award for his part in The Godfather. And that occurred, if I remember correctly, something like about a month after the incident at Wounded Knee. And Marlon Brando refused to accept the award. In fact, he decided that he could be more useful by going to Wounded Knee and supporting integrity in the way that the state government treated the Native Americans at Wounded Knee. And he asked Sasheen Littlefeather to deliver his refusal speech. Interestingly enough, they wouldn't let her do it. It was about an 8-minute speech. They gave her 1 minute, and apparently from one article that I read, they told her that if she went over 1 minute, that they'd arrest her. So she had 1 minute. She very eloquently, very sweetly, very respectfully, in a very abbreviated way, expressed Marlon Brando's thought, and that was that it was more important for him to be at Wounded Knee doing something about the Native American abuse in America, and that he supported her in making the request that Native Americans be represented as actual human beings in films, series, and in replays, and that the Academy and Hollywood in general stop portraying the Native Americans the way that they were portrayed. And I found it interesting. It's very much like the situation today with all of this MAGA stuff going on, or we might say MAWA, M-A-W-A. They're the initials I've been using, Make America White Again. And as this young woman spoke, and again, very sweetly and very respectfully spoke, a small but loud vocal number of people booed her, and the majority broke out into applause for her, which I thought was, rather typical and awesome. There is a small vocal minority that's willing to lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they need to do in order to keep this racist baiting and conflict going. Here's a young lady who simply respectfully said, please, take care of my people. And then if you Google Marlon Brando and Oscars 1973, you'll find another one where he's talking with, if I remember correctly, it's about a 5 or 6 minute segment. This is all on my Facebook page, where he's talking with, if I remember correctly, it was Jack Parr. And Jack Parr says, would you do that any differently? He says, no. And he goes through and explains, and he particularly focuses on very compassionate and gentle speaker, and addressed the way that especially children are damaged by being portrayed the way that they are being portrayed. And in that conversation, Marlon Brando did not limit his comments to Native Americans, but spoke of the way that Hollywood has portrayed most nations other than white in a derogatory way. I mean, he very eloquently, although responsibly and with a great deal of compassion, speaks about how that needs to change and how we each need to do something about it. And then if you Google Marlon Brando and Johnny Carson, you'll find another, I think it's about a 10-minute clip. And this goes back, so this Academy Awards event that happened, and, as I said, a small but very vocal minority booed her. It apparently took 6 security guards to hold back John Wayne from going up on the stage and tearing her off the stage and attacking her, which I found appalling. And that, now his name's not coming to me. Anyway, one other Hollywood Western actor made a comment when he was giving an award to someone about how he was giving the award for all of the Clint Eastwood, made the putrid comment that he was giving the award, and it was obviously a referral back to Sachin, was given the award for all of the cowboys that had ever been shot in some producer's Western movies. It was just a really degrading comment that he made. A representative of a lot of the degrading comments, and we've just watched a whole series of events happen with a black woman who's just, if you've watched any of the interviews with her in the Senate, very bright, very genuine, and highly integritous woman. And you watched how the racist comments are made and things are twisted, everything that she's done in her life, which, if you look at official statistics and if you look at the legal profession and how they rate her, she's just A1. She's impeccable. And yet, unfortunately, unlike what happened in 1973 at the Oscars, 6 guards were there to restrain John Wayne from attacking her. There was no one to restrain these putrid voices in the Senate that just did everything they did to twist her record. And I found it interesting. There's a line in Course in Miracles that says, we oftentimes ask questions not because we're asking a question, but because we're giving an answer looking for agreement. And if you listen to any of these sisters that are playing the race card, they weren't really asking questions. They were testifying. They literally were testifying under the guise of asking her questions and just feeding the hate base of that faction of this culture. The same ones who booed are the same people who, when young black children were going into schools to be integrated, spit on those children and, refused to allow them entry into the schools or did the best they could. And the same ones that are still there who really came down on this young woman whose legal credentials are impeccable. And it's just a mindset that, people who are in pain inflict pain on others, and it's a mindset that we need to heal. When they said to Yeshua, how do we get to be humans? What's most important? He didn't say love your neighbor, love Creator, love God, or as yourself. He didn't say that. He said there's a condition in the frontal lobes of your brain. There's a mindset you need to maintain that allows you to be human. In essence, that's the bottom line of his Aramaic statement. And when you watch people in their hate and their rage and their lies and their defrauding and their subtle ways of twisting things, that's the mindset of hostility and fear that Yeshua's work was all about defeating. And it's time for us to wake up to who we are and to bring healing to that mindset. Hurting people hurt people. And so when people are doing that, what their power person did there. There's a great deal of stress, and you know exactly what their power person did there. You should listen to one of those who talked to Ketanji Brown Jackson in a degrading way about her record and tried to twist it to make it look like she did something wrong. Here's what I guarantee happened to them in childhood. They had a person who twisted everything they did and tried to make that person believe they were wrong and bad and evil. And here they are doing to this young lady exactly what was done to them. People like that need to be held accountable, and sometimes, hopefully, some of that's going to end up in prison sentences, because we need to isolate people from the culture of humans. And Jeannie, we're all of a sudden getting a lot of noise in the background. If you could hit a mute button, sweetie.
I was waiting for you to take a breath to tell you we have a hand up.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. If you can just give me a minute here. And so to recognize that there's pain, there's trauma, there's a power person dynamic there that needs to be embraced in conscious, active, present love, perhaps held accountable when one becomes legally threatening within the culture. We have a system set up. There's a judge that was one of my mentors, a man named Judge Asa D. Kelly, who, while he sentenced thousands of people to life in prison, never punished any one of them. Everything that he did, he literally did with love in his mind and in his heart, and his care for his community and protecting his community. And when he sentenced someone, he sentenced them, if someone was interested, to step into a healing process that I actually was part of developing called Laws of Living. And so to recognize that sometimes legal accountability is required in order to protect society, and that any action that's taken out of any form of hostility or fear is just going to replicate and pass on the power person dynamic. So lots of issues in the culture today, opportunities to learn forgiveness. Let's talk to our caller, sweetie.
I believe it's Roma, 808. You're on the air.
Yes, I'm a little confused. I didn't get any email or anything about a meeting today for the Still Point group.
It's not for the Still Point group. The meeting today is for the Global Book Club.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. That's why there's no email.
That's what we'd be doing.
Yeah, we haven't done our second session yet. Do we have any idea when that may be?
We had decided we would wait since it's so close to time for the next breath work.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I just was confused. Okay. Thank you very much.
Right. No, we're cool there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, we made several attempts to put that together, and in one way or another, somebody wasn't available or didn't make it, and it just didn't unfold properly. So we will we'll move forward, and when we know everybody is available, we'll add an additional session so we catch up on that one. Aloha. And if you're out there in listener land, our call-in number 563-999-3581. If you push 1, that will put a hand up in the control panel. Jeannie will introduce you by your area code, and we'll be having a conversation. So how can we support you?
We have a hand.
Great.
So area code 610, I believe it's Susan.
Hey. Hi.
Welcome, young lady.
Thanks. You gave me a mind shifter yesterday.
Aha.
Which is, whatever I do, I know the truth is my behavior is on track. I'm doing the right thing. You know, Michael, I don't know what to do with it because I don't have any words in there. I just don't feel that it's right or possible. I don't know what to do with it. I'm completely stymied.
Well, here's what I do with that. You remember in the worksheet, we've got a place to talk about how you're feeling. And then there's a little box with a place to draw your feelings. With the art that you do, you might want to pick up and, is there a way for you to artistically, pen or with your cutouts or what have you, to artistically represent what it is that you're experiencing internally that is not verbal? And I suspect that what you're dealing with probably is a power person dynamic that happened before you had language. And so it may be something that, one, I would suggest you really pay attention to your breath as you think about that and process that or write that mind shifter and allow yourself to represent it in whatever way comes. It might be, a color. It might be a shape. It might be a symbol. And let yourself be with that and ask Ruka to guide you into what is it that's moving here in me that I am not yet able to put into words, but I know it's not based in love. And keep writing that mind shifter. This would be an important one to set aside, a period of 3 to 4 hours. Turn off your phone, be in your own space. Tell Tim, hey, I'm busy. I'm locking the office door. I'm going to hang with this. And just be with what moves and make sure that you pay attention to your breath because it's probably going back to some of the very core issues.
I can tell that it is, even you're saying those things. Yeah.
What's moving for you? What are you feeling right now?
I feel as if I'm in a box, a very dark little box with thick walls, and I'm in the fetus position. I'm just in a box, really in a box.
So you sound like you are processing an in utero experience prior to birth.
Holy mackerel.
I mean, if I listened to everything you just said, you just told us you were still in the womb.
Whoa.
And so that would be a place to breathe and let yourself just let yourself be receptive and be aware. And when you start to touch into something like that and you do start to put it pen to paper and put it into words, it will probably feel like you're making it up. And so I'd start a sentence out like, here I am in this tight little space. I'm in the womb and my mother is, and just let your mind fill in whatever comes. And it'll probably feel like you're making it up. And the word might be my mother is in fear or terrified, or my mother's sad, or my mother's being beaten up, or my mother's considering suicide, whatever comes, just let whatever words move in you and put them on the paper without censoring them. And this is something that in our intuitive development workshop we train people to do. And most people, when they first started, it's like, I'm just making this up. This is garbage. And then especially when they're working with a partner and their partner goes, oh my God, how did you know that about me? You know you're not making it up. You know it's accurate. And it sounds like something that there may be a lot of emotion to come with it. And I'd make sure that I keep my breath moving and let that whole thing open up.
Wow, this is amazing. It's a lot earlier than I thought. I thought the issues started around 2, but they didn't.
No, I think you just described exactly where they started, I would offer. That would be my take. And I would treat it as fact and let yourself process it the same as you would if it were intellectual knowledge that you could put into words. Let yourself put a color to it, let yourself put a shape to it, that art that you do so gracefully that I often see posted. Let yourself do that and see what story comes out.
Okay.
And know that we'll be holding you in our hearts and in the space.
Thanks, Michael.
Gently caring for you to support the space of opening whatever this I'm looking for a word, whatever this energetic dynamic is that has plagued you for so long, but doesn't yet seem to be able to come into words. You're right on the cusp of it, I'd offer.
Okay.
So I'd let you. I'd go into that fetal position. I'd go into allowing the breath to move and see what it is that moves.
Okay.
And the forgiveness process involved here, as let's say, gee, this doesn't feel good, and what I'd like is to feel good, or I'd like to be cared for, or I'd like to be taken care of. Whatever comes as what it is that would bring relief, and you cancel that goal, the outbursts of energy that may happen may be a color, it may be as I say, a symbol, it may be a whole memory. It might be literally hearing words that mother was saying to herself, or that someone perhaps in abuse was saying to mother at that stage when you were 5 months in the womb. And you might ask, in the process, invite mom, ask mom, is there anything that happened when I was in utero that I need to know about? And then listen for her voice. You heard the session, you were in the intensive when Magda touched into that thing with her grandfather. Let that voice come to you, and just let yourself be receptive, and rather than censoring it. And if it's all false, everything that comes is total fake and you just made it up, it won't matter, because you'll have processed the underlying energy behind it. And most likely what you'll be doing is feel like you're making up a story, but it's going to be a true story that when you just let the energy open and breathe into it, you're going to be free of. And as you're freed of it, everybody in your bloodline starts to be able to throw it off. It's almost like the sense I'm getting, and my physiology is doing this. It's kind of an unusual physical thing for me to do, but it's almost like a pair of bird wings just pushing. My hands are just like wanting to push that energy off. Let it just be, fluffed off. Let it be moved out of your structure for the whole family system.
That would be good.
Yeah, it would be. It would be awesome. And I wish I were there to put my hands on you and breathe you.
And I'd love that, because I think you could teach me how to do it, which I don't do by myself. Yeah.
Well, remember, you've got the energy field worksheets from the intensive. Maybe get Tim to just be there and be the space and ask him to go. And he doesn't have to do every step in the energy field work perfectly, but you've got that instruction sheet. Ask him to hold the space and maybe do those energy points to the best of his ability. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, your finger has to be within a 16th of an inch here. It's the holding the space and the physical support of moving through it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do set that up with Tim, drop us a text or a note or a call and let us know when. And Jeannie and I will both be focused on holding the space for you.
Oh, that's awfully nice of you. Thanks.
Of course, of course. All right, young lady. Well, the show's about to cut us off, so we're in that space, holding that space for you right now, and know that you're cherished.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Jeannie.
All right, blessings. Bye-bye.